Hi, my name is Loren. I am part of the team here at Tiny Home Tours. I wanted to pop on briefly before your regular Tiny Home Tours video and let you know that this weekend is the last weekend that we are offering access to the Tiny Living course at 50% off its usual price. I really hope that you'll take advantage of this incredible opportunity. We've spent more than a year creating a course that we think is the best course out there for tiny living. We focus on everything from RVs, schoolies, traditional tiny homes, camper vans, dating on the road, living with your pets, how to get a remote job, and so much more. So once again, 50% off is only available for this weekend. Make sure you get access to all of these videos, instructors, and so much more before it goes up to its regular price. Enjoy your video, and hopefully we'll see you in the course.
Alright, so I'm Amanda and this is Frank, and behind us is Truck, a 1994 GMC Vandura. We've lived in Truck for close to 5 years and in a van slash tent for almost 8. So I built all the cupboards with I guess it's like a table saw, so the doors just slide, and then you maximize storage space because you're not losing with drawers and no cost of hardware. So basically everything in here is crammed as full as it gets with food or gear, and it's a lot of tucking and sliding to get in any cupboard ever and close it after. So I have a Goal Zero Yeti, and for the first 6+ years of van life, I didn't have any sort of power bank system. I just had like the little pocket ones, and I would just charge everything while I was driving. And then lockdown happened and I wasn't driving enough to power my phone and whatnot, so I ended up ordering the Goal Zero bank and folding panel because it was just really easy and mindless. I didn't have to think about it. And it's been okay, but I would never recommend it at all. The power bank started having error issues shortly after the warranty period, and in most of the places I hang out, it's just not enough solar to be worth having this type of setup instead of a fixed alternator setup. So yeah, I never wanted fixed panels on my roof. Before I painted my van green, it was white, so it was pretty stealthy, and it seemed like solar panels were a dead giveaway that you live in your van and you have money, so I felt better off with people thinking I was poor. So this shelf here took a few renditions to get it to stop from falling down when I'm off-roading. I really didn't want to see the brackets here, so I tried to just put them all on the inside, but it would just peel off the wall like on all the bumps and stuff. But now it's pretty solid. It stayed up for probably 2 years now, and I've added the coffee jars, so it's holding quite a bit of weight, all my vitamins and supplements and odds and ends. And then this is teas, herbs I've picked, wild teas, and like everything. Cutlery, toothbrush, pens, pencils, who knows, knives, whatever. And then this is a collection of coins and rocks, because even though I live in a van, I collect rocks. Yeah, and feathers and all sorts of useless things that take up space and do nothing. So for my first about 3 or 4 years of van life, I had a single candle lantern. That was my only source of light in the van. And then I upgraded to a Lucy solar lantern. And then a year ago, I got the Lucy string lights. So really moving up in the world, got a $45 lighting system in here. And I mostly just recharge it instead of putting the solar thing outside, but it lights the place up way more than I've ever been used to. And then this is mostly things from friends, cards friends have given me or cards friends have made, pictures friends have taken, like a magazine cover I really liked, and just odds and ends like lucky dollar bills that I've found on the ground, lucky quarter I found in the desert. It's just things I like to look at when I'm not doing anything and have no internet. So over on this side of my van, I built it in the same style but taller and skinnier, and this side is all food and spices, and in the same manner it's just crammed in here. And then these middle ones are a bit more of a pain to get into because they require opening this side to tuck. So it's like the things I don't access as much, like all my camera gear, because I just use my phone. So it's just tuck and slide. Yeah, and this one is closed. It's even harder to get into, but I'm able to maximize the space and have as much stuff in here as possible that just like are things I like in my life. So I don't have lots of clothes, but I have lots of gear and food and a few books, which are nice to have. Mostly they're identification books for plants and mushrooms and hiking and climbing guides. This I really like. This I've had since high school. It's always been a part of where I lived, and of course it had to make its way into the van, but it's like odds and end kind of bathroom stuff, glasses, physio stuff. So this spice rack I found in my grandpa's shed as we were finishing this initial van build, which I did with my grandpa, and I just felt really drawn to it, so I cleaned it up and found a way to put it in my van. It's kind of floated around, but it's finally found its home here, and it's just got this same latch, but to the wall on both sides, so if I want, I can take the spice rack out. But this spice rack actually was the spice rack in my house that my parents had growing up, and then when they moved off the island, they gave it to my grandpa, and then they used it for years, and then they redid their kitchen and it ended up in the shed, and then I found it, and now it's been in this van for almost 5 years, and putting it at an angle just creates storage for these tall things, and I can just slide them out. So it's actually pretty handy use of space. I used to have milk crates here, but I found I didn't like the squared off angle, and this has better feng shui. So when I first moved into a van, I was actually living here in Squamish, and the cost of housing was beginning to go up quite a bit, and it was a place I came to play and live an outdoor lifestyle and adventure and be in the mountains and kind of like focus on my own personal growth. And it was getting to a point where I was gonna have to sacrifice all of that to work more, to pay rent, so somebody else can own second and third properties. And I found myself in a pretty hard financial situation and really didn't have any choice but to stop paying rent. And so the plan was January 1st to move into a tent in the estuary here. Somebody caught wind of that and gave me my first van. So that's how I ended up van life. I just wasn't willing to be a slave for rent anymore. So I found living in an apartment that I wasn't always there a lot, especially in the summer. I would spend a lot of time outdoors, and I would just like show up to crash and then take off again in the morning. And I have a lifetime of camping experience, so moving into a van didn't feel like such a big deal, especially because I also had a storage locker that I could come and go and kind of allow things to change and figure out what I was doing while it was happening. But I did spend my first 3 nights after turning in the keys in a parking lot for a repair shop, because the van I was given to me, so it obviously wasn't in very good shape. And so it was a bit of a struggle in that sense at first, just having a lot of breakdowns, and then just like getting the things I needed to stay comfortable, starting out van life in winter without heat. But I knew that starting van life in winter was going to be better for the long term than in summer, because I faced so many hardships right away and wasn't swept away in the romance of it all. And so after surviving winter, summer just felt so free and easy, and another winter rolls around and I have a year of experience now, so it wasn't very hard. Whereas I knew that if I started in summer, it might just be too good to be true, and then winter comes and that's a hard reality. So. So So this is my bed. It's very, very simple. Luckily, I'm not too tall, so I do fit this way. He's not going to be happy about my feet on him, but I fit this way. When it's hot, I find my bed is way too small. With the heat waves this summer, I just couldn't starfish enough, and I found I was just always hitting walls. So I do actually have an extension that's not currently in the van, so my bed can go this way and is quite a bit roomier. I don't have that with me, but it was built into the initial design, which is what this little piece that sticks out is. So, but the bed itself is 2-inch foam, the cheapest foam at the foam store, the most basic foam I could get to make it affordable, and then some untreated cedar slats under to allow airflow and mold management, and then piles of blankets. And that's what this seat here is, all my blankets I don't need now because it's warm, but in winter those other 5 blankets come in pretty handy because I don't have heat in here, and I've never had heat in a van after 8 winters, so just a big pile of blankets. Yeah, so all this art is an artist out of Olympia named Darcy, and she also does the calendar. So a lot of these I just cut out last year's calendar and put them around the red panda there. And then she's actually working currently on a custom piece of Frank I'll be turning into stickers. So that's really exciting because I really like her art style. So under the bed, it's all storage. The wheel wells are half bed and half under here, so those are just framed out. And then these lengths and this back section is accessible from the back door. And then under the bed, I have hinged gear storage and canned goods. So it is crammed with as much stuff as I can fit in here. Minimize the cost of build and maximize the amount of stuff you can cram in while still having a spacious, sort of tidy looking interior. So this part of the van is actually completely unbuilt. If I took out everything that's here, it would just be an open space, which allows for a lot of flexibility. And over the years, how I've used this space has changed. I've had big totes in here. I've had more crash pads than this. It's been different in a lot of ways. So the first crash pad is very easily removable, and you can see it's just holding up a pile of stuff that I have crammed back here. So this is a 25-liter water storage, and I actually almost never dip into this unless I find myself out in the backwoods without access to filter water. Aside from this, I have about 10 liters of bottles and a 10-liter bag that I will pump filter, and that's how I do most of my water, is I pump to filter it. And then occasionally I'll find tap water, but I do prefer to drink stream or lake water than tap water. So that's there just as like a super backup. And if I need to, I have like other bags and collections from hiking. I can hold up to about 40 liters of fresh water. And then I have no gray water storage, and where most people would have gray water tanks, I have months of food supplies. And then I have the solar panel tucked back here, cutting board. So I do pretty much all my prep on my lap. I will just open this up into couch mode. And this crash pad is well over 10 years old and it has been heavily used, so it looks like a heavily used crash pad. And I do most of my like food prep like this. And then I cook outside on the door. So I didn't really build a kitchen in here. I just didn't feel like it was necessary. Yeah. So then up here I have a pellet gun. Was given to me by my uncle, and I just shoot cans. It's just for fun. And I guess if I was in a life or death survival situation, I could catch a bird, but I don't really have any interest in that. My hat holder is actually the colander for roasting coffee. So that's a 2-in-1. And then this is just a pile of gear. I've another one of these eye loop screws and a carabiner here and here. And I've just hung as much stuff as I feel is reasonable to get away with. So one thing I found was a big game changer was buying a cafeteria tray from a grocery store to use it for Frank's water, and then his food bowl goes here also. So I like to always keep water out so I can't forget to give him water, but then on back roads it splashes, and the tray just means everything that splashes out goes in the tray. You park, you dump the tray, it's fine. I don't have water soaking into like rugs and getting everywhere and leading to mold. So yeah, living on the West Coast, mold prevention was one of the biggest things on my mind in this build. I think my favorite part about living in a van is that if I'm broke and I have no money and I don't feel like working, I can park somewhere and I have months of food. Nobody's gonna tell me I can't live here anymore. This is mine. Like, this van is mine, and even if the engine seizes and breaks down, I can fix that, but I still have a home. So having that like housing sovereignty provides so much security mentally to me that I've been able to really focus on growing as a person and more of a spiritual journey, instead of just being caught up in the grind of paying to survive when no other animal pays to live on this planet. So I just like to try to spend as little money as possible and do things that are free, because they're pretty great out in the world. When I first moved into a van, I lived here for 2 years. I wasn't really nomadic, so I had actual jobs like doggy daycare and that kind of stuff. And then I transitioned into foraging, mushroom picking, fruit picking, farm work. And now I'm transitioning out of that into YouTube, as my channel is allowing me to, it's allowing me to dirtbag. Like, I'm not making a bunch of money, but it's enough to get by, and I'm not worried about whether I'm gonna eat or have gas if I don't go pick fruit or something. So I do drive about half the average Canadian, so I average less than 10,000 kilometers a year, which is really low for a van lifer, but I like to get as most experience per gas dollar as possible. So I travel slow and I park in places for a long time, and I find that I don't have to stress too much about making enough money, because I don't need that much money to begin with. So this is where I do all my cooking. It just folds up, and then I use this stick to prop it. And for a stove, all of my years of van life, I have used an MSR Whisper Light. That has been my stove for cooking for close to 8 years. It took a year of being in this van to come up with this door kitchen idea, and so for 3 years before that, I cooked on the ground. I use about 1 gallon of white gas per month if I'm doing like lots of cooking, like boiling things, doing fry-ups for like an hour or two. And I just use a deep cast iron pan for almost all my cooking, and if I'm making something soupy, I use a 2.5 liter stainless steel pot I got at a thrift store for 50 cents. So yeah, it's very, very basic. It works. The frying pan can go on the fire, yeah, easy peasy. So over here, I also haven't never gotten around to insulating the doors, or like putting some sort of surface on them, which is, I painted them last year, but before they were just white and pretty ugly. But I just find that the inside of the door makes fine storage. So this is all Frank's toys and his long leash for if we're in places where he needs to be tied up. This has occasionally been used for storage of bars for hiking when I have way too many bars to fit in the cupboards. I just put them in the door, but mostly it just holds his chuck it. And then these are things that I think are really important to have super easily accessible, like bear spray, hatchet, knife, folding saw, and a fire extinguisher. When I moved into a van, the first thing I ever bought for van life was a fire extinguisher. And it's important that it's easily accessible and that you can get out of your van. If you have a fire in your van, you want to get out and then grab your fire extinguisher and put it out. You don't want it tucked in there somewhere in some cupboard, because what if that's where the fire is? So I find here on the door, I can take it off from inside, but it's always accessible in a safe place. So yeah, it's just all the tools I could need, and then they're not floating around, and yeah, it's worked pretty well. 2 years ago, I built a shelf just like the kitchen one. So it just folds up and then has a stick to prop it. And I built this for a couple reasons. One, because when it's hanging down, it blocks all this garage stuff and just looks a lot nicer if I'm taking photos of the back end for like Instagram or whatever. But then it also gives me a surface here. I can use it as a standing desk. So it is nice to stand here sometimes and work on my computer. Or if I want to be in bed, I have another surface for like coffee, or I could like lay out food. If I really want to be outside standing preparing lunch, I'll just do that on this surface. So it's come in pretty handy, and it does a great job, yeah, hiding all this stuff. And then this is all the extra storage under the bed. So this is garage, like mechanical stuff, parts, tools. This is extra fuel, extra sanitizer, extra canned goods. I got snowshoes in there, lake floaties, that kind of stuff. And then this is all climbing gear. And these doors, when I painted the van green last year, I just needed to do something a bit more fun than what I had been doing, which was just a lot of sanding and rust work on like the exterior of the body to get like a nice green. So yeah, I did this with just spray paint and painter's tape and a bunch of beer. It was a fun day. So yeah, just did what happened. I had all these colors I'd ordered, and my goal was just to use all the colors in some sort of design. So it ended up being kind of like tide line to alpine, which is what I go by on the internet. So this rack up here, my dad actually built for me. My dad is a mechanic and trained as a heavy-duty mechanic, and he's an excellent fabricator. So he built this rack for the minivan I lived in because it was pretty low on storage, and I go mushroom picking from time to time. So I needed somewhere to strap a bunch of buckets and extra tires and jerry cans. So after painting the van green, I decided that I've blown my cover. I am not stealth. Let's put the rack on the van. So we modded it to have these legs that come out and hold on to the gutter. And then I bought the aluminum box off the internet, and we built the bracket to hold it in there. And then I put a cedar decking in, which before I had plywood, but I figured I'm actually gonna like hang out up there. The goal is to keep the rack empty so I can just use it as a deck space, and then if I need to, I can strap something to it. So it's much nicer to hang out than when it was just plywood. So in all my years of van life, one of the most common things I'll hear from people is, I wish I could afford to live like you. And I think what they don't realize is that they have way more money than I do, and that it doesn't have to cost a lot. You don't have to have the fancy build. You don't have to drive 50,000 miles in a year. You don't have to do any of that. If your goal is to be out in the wilderness, or to have freedom, or to have you time, if that's what you want, is you time to work on yourself or do the things that you enjoy doing, then just get whatever works and you can upgrade from there. I didn't start with this van as it is. It's taken 7+ years to get here, and minivans and unbuilt vans, and then slowly growing and figuring out what works. So yeah, it's not about the van, it's about what living out of a van allows you to do. So I exist all over the internet as Tideline to Alpine. So that's Tideline, like at the ocean, to the Alpine. So it's really simple, and I got the name from these tattoos actually. So I'm on Instagram and YouTube. YouTube is my main platform now, so I put out videos once or twice every single week. And then yeah, regular Instagram posts, and I have a Facebook page and a website, but they don't get too much attention because there's a lot to do out in the world. Yeah, but that's it for my van tour. So I hope you enjoyed meeting Truck and myself, and maybe you met Frank, I don't know. But yeah, I hope you have a great day, and thanks for coming along.